Coach Chryst for some opening comments, then we can take questions.
Well, certainly, today is a big day for any program, and I'm excited about, the guys that are joining our team. And I think in all of recruiting, you're looking for a couple things. You're looking for guys that add value to your team, and certainly on the field, in the locker room. I think we've done that with this group. I think you're always looking for guys that you feel like can be successful here. Successful again on the field, successful in the classroom, and I think we've got a group certainly that does that. And I think for the kids, for the players, it's a big day. And it's fun to see and feel their excitement. Obviously, this was a unique situation in our recruiting with the time that we had. Appreciate the efforts of a lot of people to make this happen, but certainly feel good about this group and every individual. Their story is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, they signed and they're part of our team, and I think it is a group that can and will have success here individually, and certainly help our team to have some success. So I'm excited about that, and appreciate the efforts of a bunch of people.
Jesse?
Well, you explained what the last couple of weeks was like for you and your staff. Did it almost feel like a mad dash to the finish line to make sure you got who you wanted, and with so many players decommitting and all that? What was this experience like?
I think it was, you kind of knew going in it was gonna be that. With the way the calendar, the recruiting calendar fell this year, we're gonna have two, a little less than 2.5 weeks, and so you kind of anticipated what it would be, and this part is always a little bit, busy, but it was fun, and it was, I had a chance to go see a lot of players and meet their families and see where they're from, and I think that those are good, but it was crazy, but you kind of knew it, and so that you kind of enjoyed it.
Well, you've got a couple of quarterbacks in the class, and both of them are already enrolled. One obviously committed to Gary before he left, and one who committed to you guys at Pitt decided to follow you here. Can you take us through what factors led both those guys to decide to come here, one to stay, one to follow you, and what do you expect from them in the spring, and how much of an edge will they get by being here in the spring?
Yeah, I think actually that the two quarterbacks is kind of a microcosm of what our recruiting was this year, and it's Austin's a guy that was committed and stayed committed to Wisconsin. Alex was a guy that but I didn't have a long relationship with Austin. Never went out to see him. Had a chance certainly to watch his film right away, and then talk to him on the phone, and then when both of them starting early. Really didn't allow for a chance to go out and see Austin, and when you watch him on tape, I'm excited he's here. And then Alex was kind of the more traditional, started recruiting him probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and came to campus a number of times, and was at our football camp, and was at his school a couple times, and parents' home, and yet when he came to take his visit was a time where I couldn't see him, so he never took an official visit here. He came and took a campus tour along with a few other prospective students, and never saw his parents when they were here. But it was both are excited to be here. I think both, like I said, add value to our team, and kind of what you're talking about with those who choose to come early. We had 6 that are here with us right now, and for those 6, you love having them. and you appreciate what all they did to get to this point, and I think there certainly is a starting point to each year, and it is in January, February, before spring ball. So I think, for Austin and Alex, there is an advantage when we're installing it. They're hearing it, for the first time. And yet, I also think it's a real individual thing. I don't feel like the guys that aren't, didn't come, midterm, that they're any less committed or any, just, we had a couple guys that are, probably wrestling at state. We got a couple in, deep run in basketball. It's kind of neat for them to be finishing out their high school career. But I think for the guys that are here, I think it's our job to make sure that it is worth their time and they do gain value from being here.
Well, your depth chart at quarterback looks rather stacked at this point in time, at least on paper. Could you break down what you see with the two guys that are coming in? You've got Joel, you've got Tanner. Do you anticipate some changes in positions between now and spring ball or preseason practice?
Yeah, I gotta kind of continue to take a look at it, but if we're gonna be stacked at one spot, I kind of like it being at the quarterback. And Alex and Austin are, on tape, I think have different strengths and weaknesses, and I think, I'm looking forward to, that's the one, the one thing that I'm probably looking most forward to is just getting with our players, and being able to spend some time off the road and get with the quarterbacks. But, we've got a lot of guys right now. Obviously, Tanner's, in the bowl game, watched him, played defense and also, had snaps at quarterback. So I'm going to get a chance to visit with him and see, kind of where he's at with everything, what he wants to do too. I think that he's a guy we talked for a little bit and is, I feel like he's willing to do whatever he can for this team. And I also want to make sure it's the best thing for him.
Evan, come back.
Coach, can you talk about the efforts of Thomas down the stretch, not only hanging on to Jordan, but picking up Bradford late, like in 10 minutes of another big pickup for you, and how valuable is he to the staff as a recruiter?
Well, I thought, I'm excited about, certainly the running backs that we're getting, and Thomas is, he's built good relationships, with the kids that I witnessed and coaches, and I thought everyone jumped in, and I think that was one of the best things, as we got some guys on the staff that knew each other and some that didn't, and no better way to get to know someone than spend a little bit of time in the car or playing in schools, but it was certainly impressed, with what he did, and that is part of our job. We got to coach guys and we've got to recruit, and I thought he did his job.
You look at the preferred walk-ons, especially all the Wisconsin kids that you have there. How important was that to use that to put up that wall, as Coach Alvarez said, around the state? And what did you see as the reaction with high school coaches and the kids to you and to your staff as you recruited?
Well, certainly, I loved, the first few days, I was going to be in the state, and I enjoyed getting back into schools, being around them, and it is, it is really important. Coach Alvarez was right, and we were talking about it earlier today. I think there's certain formulas or pillars of this program that I think are true, and for us, our job is we want to be the best team we can be here at Wisconsin. I think for us to be the best team, we need to have the best players in Wisconsin coming here. And like you mentioned earlier in the question, some of those best players, how they get here come in different ways. Some are on scholarship and some are walking on. But once they're here, they've got every opportunity, and we've all known and seen the impact that they can make. And I'm really fired up about the group that we've got. I think we're going to add a couple more, but truly am excited about that group. And we're going to have some guys in that group that will impact it, no doubt in my mind.
Paul, you mentioned the unique situation you had with this class. Can you talk a little bit more about the challenges you had in the last 7 weeks for you and your staff? Was that balanced with that familiarity with the state that you were talking to?
I'm trying to make sure I understand your question. Can you ask it again?
With the short turnaround you had, you talked about the unique situation for
Right.
you and your staff. You touch on some of the challenges again you had in that short time frame. Was that balanced with your familiarity with
I got you,
Wisconsin
yeah.
too?
Yeah, I think it did help. And not just me, you know, we've got a number of coaches that truly know this. I think the challenge to me in recruiting, the best recruiting is when you know a kid and they truly get to know the university and the people at the university, and that takes time. And with some of these, we didn't really have that time, and yet I think that as you go out, and there was still some evaluation going on, and I think our experiences of kind of the profile, for lack of a better term, of kids that have done really well here, that have had success, I think there's a number of us that feel really confident in some of the key qualities that if they have those, they've got a great chance to succeed. So I think the familiarity with this place and with the guys that, you know, have done well and traditionally do well here, I think it really did help us.
Offensive line has been an issue as far as depth has been concerned the last couple of years. Do you think you're getting closer to replenishing that depth? And also, if you could talk specifically about John Dietzen and David Warren.
Yeah, I think, you know, last year was a real big class, and, you know, this year we're signing 3, and, you know, so that's in 2 classes. You know, typically you kind of have, each position you kind of have target numbers. You know, and for us at the O-line, it's 15, you know, on scholarship, and knowing and hoping you get, you know, a Ricky Wagner, you know, comes in and all of a sudden adds to the numbers. But, you know, there is kind of a gap there, and that's what it is. So we just got to go and that's why we coach too. You know, you got to coach and you got to develop them, and looking forward to that. And you know, John being here, I think is big. You know, him having the opportunity to go through, not, you know, certainly spring ball, but before that, even just like I said, the introductory meetings. You know, you've got Dan Bolts and, you know, Tyler, who have the most experience. Well, they're going to be in that first meeting with Rudy and going over maybe some terminology change. John's been here, so he's going to be. I think that'll be helpful for him, and even just the workouts. But, you know, certainly love his size, only because it's paired up with some. He can move, you know, and I love the way that he plays. And he's got on tape, you know, he's got a mean streak that you like. And I think that really all of them, you know, Kevin Estes, who you didn't ask about, but David, I think they kind of play it the way you want them to play. And Dave's, I think he's got good athleticism and good size, not as big as John, but I'm not sure that you're going to bring many high schoolers in that are the same size. So I like the group, you know, and like a lot of the linemen here, you know, they're going to have to work to develop it, and so that's the fun part, though.
Coach, with Alec Ingold and Zach Vaughn, those are 2 of the best quarterbacks that we saw in high school this year in Wisconsin. What does your staff see out of them to make you believe they'll be good linebackers?
I just think they're really good football players, and I had a chance to kind of know a little bit more about Alec. And you just look at it, you know, he's 28-0 right now as a wrestler, and he's, you know, tops in his class as a student, and, you know, player of the year, and, you know, 2,000 some yards rushing. And then when you watch his tape, you say, there's a guy that he likes playing the game, you know, and part of kind of getting that, you know, I think he had a big hand in helping that team be successful, you know, and when you just look at the athleticism, you know, Zach, and you say, you watch his basketball highlights, and then you see him playing football, and again, once you kind of get a feel for who they are as a guy, and that they want to be not just good, but they want to be really good, you just feel confident that they're the right kind of guys that'll fit and do well here, and I think that, you know, linebacker right now is probably where you'd start them at and see, but I think they both, you know, different stories, but I think they both have a great opportunity here to be special.
Andy?
Well, later this week, the Big Ten coaches or athletic directors and administrators are going to talk about a variety of things with football. One of them is an early signing period. How do you feel about the idea of an early signing period for football?
Well, I think there's, I know we're gonna kind of adopt well, last thing I heard, kind of been a little busy, but, I'm talking about kind of that December 15th, they were talking about that. I think there's a place for it if it's, it's interesting, I was talking to a couple coaches about it, and there's everything is kind of keeps moving up more and more, and so to address the early signing kind of fits that, but sometimes that's not always better. I think we do a better job when we've got more tape, more information, on kids. But I think that there are certain kids that, personally, I believe there's certain kids that know where they want to go, and as long as they know and are prepared for right, if they can sign early and be done with it, I think it fits. I think there's still a lot of talk of the best way, and if you put 10 coaches in the room or 10 ADs, they'd have a different date is when it should be, and all the different things, but I think there's a place for it, and I'm glad we're discussing it.
Jesse? Tight end group traditionally here has had a bunch of success. Just hoping to get your thoughts on Kyle and where you think he fits in and what he can bring, especially with him being another early enrollee.
Yeah, I think, again, loved watching him on tape, and, he's here now, and which actually meant that we didn't get to know him as well as some of the guys who went on the road, because when he came, we were leaving, but I'm looking forward to being around him, but certainly love what he does on tape. David Edwards is also going to play tight end for us, a little bit different style of a tight end, but I think that he's certainly athletic, I think can be, do a lot of different things, he's not one-dimensional, and we have, I was impressed with the tight ends that, we're playing, I've seen on film, obviously, and knew a lot of them, and there has been a tradition, kind of recently of good tight ends, and that's a pretty good bar for him to try to reach, but I think he's capable of it.
Jeff?
Well, you were talking about the offensive line a little bit earlier. What's the status of Jaden Galt? Do you anticipate he's going to be coming in this year, or where does that stand?
I really don't know exactly, and I've, like I said, with, when I got here, he was not around at the time, and then when I was here for the first morning, I left before classes started, so I haven't visited with him either.
Two kids from the Wausau area that came about differently in your recruiting process. What stands out to you about both Jake and Andrew, and about how you were able to land both of them?
Yeah, it was, both of them really, really excited that they're part of this. And they said they kind of came about it a little bit differently, but I think both have a chance to certainly make an impact. And Jake, first heard about just in, I think it was the first or second day I was here, was meeting with some of the high school coaches and just asking them, who are some guys in the state that we should know and be aware of. And Jake had been down, Dave knew him, he came to camp and all that, and Andrew, same thing, Ben Strickland, and told me about him and was excited about him. And we were able to have him down for a visit this past weekend, and when you're around them and around their family, it kind of keeps coming together a little bit more, and so I feel really fortunate that both of them are here.
Andy?
Well, just to be clear, do you expect any of your quarterbacks to transfer to leave that you have on the roster right now?
No, not that I know. I don't anticipate, no.
Do you also have any lineup position changes that have been determined?
No,
for
we're
sure?
just trying to finish this recruiting class. Yeah. No, you're good. I'm just saying, we'll start looking at that, really, tomorrow we got one more thing, and then next week we'll start looking at all that. But no, and there's a good chance some of that will happen, I would guess, but we haven't talked at all about it.
Coach, some of your preferred walk-ons declined scholarship offers somewhere else to come here and walk on. is that a tough sell job to in-state kids, or do they know about the Jim Leonards, the Jared Aberderses, and they just almost volunteer to do that?
Well, I think probably the last thing, I mean, I think they absolutely know about, and there's, you just hit on a couple, but I don't think this whole recruiting thing is, you asked, is it a tough sell job? You're offering them an opportunity, and then you want to make sure all these kids, and then you want to make sure they understand what the place is, and then they pick it, and so they're excited to be coming, and we're not trying to paint a picture that's not real, that's, that we can't deliver on, and yet, they did, a lot of guys, and for a number of years, guys have turned it down, and why? Because I think they understand that they want to go where the best fit is for them, and so that's when those two sides, when our side and the recruit side line up, that's when you call it a fit, and when it's a good fit, I think you got a chance to be successful.
With what recruiting signing day has become, the national attention, the media coverage and everything of it, how does it compare to when you were a high school senior and going through the process and making a decision and all that?
Well, there was no celebration when I signed for the fans, but it's I still think it's a big day. Take all the peripheral stuff out. It's a big day for that kid to sign, and one he should be really proud of. And I know it was for me, and I think it is for every player and their families. And I think every program, if we weren't excited about each and every one of these kids, then we're making a mistake. So we're excited as a program to be adding these young men to our team, to our football family. So in that way, I think it hadn't changed at all. And certainly there's a lot more attention and hype and all that comes with it. But the essence of it, it's still a pretty big day for a lot of people.